Hi, my name is Shirsavar from Breacher Digital, and in this video we're going to talk about how we calculate the size of our inductor for a buck converter. It is in fact very simple. We use just one simple equation, and incidentally is exactly the same way that automatic software such as TI's Webbench or Worth's Red Expert or Breacher WDS uses. So if you're trying to size your inductor, there are certain parameters that you need and there are certain parameters that you can calculate. For example, we need the voltage across the inductor, that is VL. We can calculate this simply by knowing V in of the power supply, in our case a buck converter, and V out. That is part of our specification. We also need to know the average inductor current. Again, that is part of our specifications, because the output current of a buck converter is the same as the average inductor current. So that is I out. Then we need the switching frequency, or our period, where switching frequency is just 1 over Ts. Again, we know that as part of our specification, and our duty on the steady state, again, we know that from our specification. So we know this one, we know this one, we know this one, and we know this one. Then we need to calculate the inductor ripple current, and this is one of the first things that we need to decide on. We're going to talk about shortly about how we do that, but typically it is 40% of I out. So again, we know this one. Then we use a very simple equation which goes VL, the voltage across the inductor, modulus of, so we ignore the sign, is equal to L times delta I, our ripple current, divided by delta T, where delta T is the time that we take, for example, for an on period when the inductor is rising, which will be duty times 1 over Fs. So we know this one, we know, oh, I beg your pardon, I dropped that, let's use a blue. We know this one, we know this one. Delta I is our ripple current, which is 40% of our output current in the case of our buck converter. Again, we'll explain later or in our presentation why we use this value. We know this one and we can calculate L. But where does this actually come from? Surprisingly, it's actually school level physics. At least I studied this when I was at school. At school, we typically talk about an inductor in a DC circuit, which looks something like this, and you put a battery there and you put a switch there. And if you remember again from the school level physics, let's call this RL, let's call this L. When you close this switch, the current will start to flow and start rising in that inductor. And in a classic textbook, this is time and this is current through the inductor. In a classic school level textbook, we showed that the current is going to rise exponentially like so, and it's going to try and reach an asymptote, which would be IL max, which is basically limited by the voltage across here, V, and this limiting resistor. Now, in a power supply, we don't allow the current to reach all the way up to the maximum level because we keep turning it on and off all the time. So let's say there is we turn the switch on here, the current in the inductor rises, then we turn the switch off and the current falls, then we turn the switch back on, the current rises, we turn the switch back off and the current falls. And as a result, as you can see, this current is not allowed to go all the way up or all the way down, and in fact it is limited between an upper boundary and lower boundary. Again, in school level physics, when we studied this, usually you had a significant amount of R which shaped the maximum amount of current. In a power supply, we are trying to minimize all our losses, so that is near zero. So if you assume that this is near 0 ohms, this will not curve up, but in fact will go as a straight line. Let me draw that with a green. So the actual inductor current is going to look the classic shape that you see in power electronics textbooks, which is a sawtooth or triangular wave. There we go. Now, because this resistance is 0 and this is a straight line, we can use a straight line approximation and life becomes a lot easier because there's no curve. This becomes a straight line which follows the straight line equation of y is equal to mx plus c, when y is here, x is there, m is the gradient, and c is your intercept. And if we do that, we don't need to use we don't need to use differential equations. This is a straight line. And what we have here is I2, here is I1, here is T2, and here is T1. So if this is the straight line, and I know this time period, and I do because this is my on time T on, which is equal to duty, in my case, times 1 over Fs, I know the boundaries that I'm going to allow this to travel by, and we said that around 40%. So there we go. This is my IL average, which I know because it's my output, and I have got my IL average, which I said that it was going to be 40%. Therefore, we know by default that this is what we wish to have at 40% of our average. This gives me delta I. Here, T2 minus T1 is delta T, and therefore I can, the L was equal to L delta I divided by delta T. I know this one, I know this one, I know this one, and therefore I can calculate that one. And this is how we calculate the inductance of the inductor. And as I mentioned earlier on, this is exactly the same way that most of the power supply design software actually calculated as well. So let's say for simplicity that gives me 22 microhenries. I still cannot go and buy my inductor because I need two other parameters. I need the RMS value of the current, and that's specified by the manufacturer. That of course will be this term here. And I need the saturation current of the inductor, which will be this peak point here. However, I have just calculated both of those. Therefore, I can then go to the manufacturer's website or datasheet, and I can find an inductor which is, for simplicity, 22 microhenries, it's big enough to have enough average current capability, the RMS current, and big enough not to get saturated based on this peak value that I've worked out. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the computer, and I'm going to show with a proper design example how we calculate these values and how we select the inductor down to the part number.